Hi, and welcome.
I'm Z,
And I'm Keith.
and we're going to tell you about the movie that we just watched. But first, a little bit of a heads up.
Some of the movies we watch deal with heavy subject matters.
In order to talk about these emotionally delicate things and the heavy subject matters that we sometimes cover, we add humor and crude language to add some levity and to process our own trauma.
If that doesn't feel fun or safe for you, we completely understand. Please take care of yourself first and foremost.
And we spoil the end of pretty much every movie that we watch.
Now you know. On with the show.
I know all there is to know about the crying game.
Oh, that's great. Then we don't have to talk about it.
Yep. No, but that means I'll talk about it. I'll talk all.
Okay.
I'll talk all about it, baby. So in the you'll be so okay. I'm gonna read this to you.
All right.
This is bonkerinos. This is
Hello and welcome to the
hi y'all.
podcast.
Hey y'all. We're talking about the crying game.
Follow us on the Instagram.
Yeah. Follow us.
Like and
Accident.
subscribe. Become a patron
Do that.
so we can eat. That'd be great. Thank you
That
very
would be
much.
great. Yeah. I'd love to eat right now. Jay Davidson's theatrical film debut. Okay.
How old was he? I wonder.
21. Oh, I don't know. Probably yeah. I don't know. I'll look it up in a second.
Sorry.
21 years younger than
Stephen Ray.
So,
Hot.
in this movie, Stephen Ray plays a member of the Irish Republican Army. In his actual life, now you need to buckle up for this, okay?
Right.
Buckle up for this. This is not the usual IMDb shit that I'm reading. In his actual life, Ray was married for 20 years to Dolores Price, a member of the IRA who participated in a car bombing at London's Old Bailey in 1973.
Fuck yeah.
For her part in the bombing, Price was given a life sentence, though she actually only served 7 years in prison. Ray and Price were married during the time that Ray filmed The Crying Game. They divorced in 2003, and Price died in 2013. In a posthumously released interview, Price admitted to also playing a role in one of the most notorious unsolved crimes of the quote-unquote Troubles era. The 1972 kidnapping and murder of a Belfast mother of 10 named Jean McConville, whose disappearance remained an open mystery until her body was found in 2003. Strange, same year that she and Ray got divorced.
Yeah.
I was like, well then, okay.
Fuck yeah.
That's crazy.
Damn.
Interestingly enough, this movie was like most people were afraid to like give money to it because of the twist as the whatever. And
Not because of its sympathetic portrayal of the
Right.
IRA.
And the reason why most people wanted to see it was because of that. That was ended up being right. Okay. So this is a movie that I think is actually really interesting, and I think especially for 1992, it really is an interesting sort of look at transness and how it's received and how it's understood and not understood. And I don't think it's, yeah. I know that this is like, I don't know. Like it's hard. I feel bad because I feel like a lot of people are like, this is a terrible like not just this. I mean like in general. Someone will be like, this is a terrible representation of trans like this is so
Right.
transphobic. And it's like in some ways, yeah, that can be seen, but in a lot of ways, I think stuff like this is interesting because of its portrayal of the time, like talking about something.
Yeah.
She's not the villain of the story.
No.
She's essentially the person that is trying to be protected from a lot of things by both sides. Like from because Jody is the English army or something. I don't know. Jody is
Yeah.
and Ray is in the IRA. So both of these people from these different worlds are trying to protect this woman. She just happens to be trans, and that's just a thing, you know. So it's interesting, you know, how she's portrayed and how. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's as villainous as the way people responded to it was, if that makes sense.
Villainous?
Yeah, like I don't think the way that her transness is written and
Yeah.
performed and showcased in this movie isn't wasn't done in a way to villainize her or to make her a
Oh,
liar or to make her not a real woman
no.
or anything like that. But the
Agree.
way that people responded to it was more
Right.
of that than the actual performance.
I
And
mean, I think it's really, now that I have the context of seeing Mona Lisa, it's the same story or a very similar story,
yeah,
or, it's like definitely like,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, very, that's superficial, but also they're kind of, it's still about,
The fucking ending is the same.
yeah,
That was the thing
right.
where I was
Somebody gets shot.
like, no, she's the one that shoots them. Remember? Because
Oh,
she shoots them in what she just shoots, and he's like, "Oh, are you gonna shoot me next?" And she's like, "Maybe."
yeah.
Like, and that's like almost exactly how the crying game ends. That's why I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the very similar in the ways of the way things get projected onto, especially by men, the objects of their
Yeah,
attentions,
yeah,
and the problems that leads to.
yeah, and like,
But it's very confusing. I mean, this is what's interesting about these two movies in particular, and like, I guess from what we've watched of Neil Jordan's films, I which is only 2, 3 others.
yeah,
Uh,
4 others at least. Because we had.
3. Anyway,
Are you talking about Mona Lisa and this one?
yeah.
And then, oh, okay, sorry. I was like,
Yeah, sorry. Oh, there's so much about like the way it's shot, and I feel like this movie does it even more than Mona Lisa, if I remember. But like all the shit in Dill's apartment, that's like all the the
Yeah.
the drapes and
Yeah, yeah,
the she's always shot very glamorously and like
yeah.
I think it's very male gazy in the way of in
Yeah.
the filmic language
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
like an object of desire,
Right.
like.
Yeah.
And that's not really ever undermined, even
No.
when he, you know, cuts her hair and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. And he's not doing it. He's doing it. This is, I mean, I don't know how it would feel, but like, I feel like the reason he's doing it is not because he's like trying to like shame her or make her like you're really a guy or anything stupid
Conversion
like
therapy.
that. Yeah, he's literally doing it because it seems like no one thinks of you as anything other than a woman.
Right.
No one's going to suspect that you're anything other than a woman. So and you don't want to be anything other than a woman. So to do this is going to be you're going to fly so far under the radar.
Yeah, so tell me my interpretation of what's his name, Fergus?
Yeah. Jimmy.
was planning was to have Dill be in the judge's, like to set him up to make it look like he was with a man rather than his normal sex worker as a way to get out. Like, what was the plan? Why were they in the hotel? Because he says I was trying to get out of something.
So.
Meaning the murder.
Yeah. So I don't know necessarily what his plans were, but I assumed that he got the hotel to not be at his place or her place so that they wouldn't know where.
But isn't it the same hotel that the judge goes to?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it is. I don't remember. I couldn't
All right.
quite tell that part. I wasn't sure. But I assumed what he was trying to do was to make sure that they didn't take Dell as collateral. Mm-hmm. So he would need to hide her in plain sight. Mm-hmm. And the only way to really do that is to, cut off her hair and make her dress like Jody.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he was planning on doing or if I'm supposed to know.
Yeah, okay.
But I think, if anything, he was wanting a quick getaway for, like, no matter what was going on for them. And I think what he was trying to do, I assumed what he was trying to do was play it off like he was going to do it and then disappear with Dell. Uh-huh. But they weren't at either of their places, so they couldn't find them. And that's why he was freaking out when the morning
when she ran off.
No, when she had him tied to the bed on the morning of.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, I have to go because he knew that they were going to come.
Yeah,
to her,
right.
So, yeah. Watching it last night, I had like this, I don't want to say visceral, but almost. So, like I said, I remembered seeing it on the television when I was like, I don't know, I was probably like a teenager or maybe even younger than that. And it was like watching it late at night on television. Because sometimes this was like a strange thing that would happen. Every now and then they would play movies like on like a Friday or Saturday night. And they would play like interesting movies like late at night, like at 1 a.m. on like, the weird, obscure channels. And
what does that mean?
Like Fox or the WB or whatever. Whatever. And it would be like the local affiliate was showing it. It wasn't like It wasn't like
right, because
whatever.
There's no national programming for those hours.
Right. And
nationwide program.
And so I would see like interesting movies. Like I saw like I think Dogfight.
Oh wow!
I saw that. The
one with Lily Taylor.
Yes, it is. Which is like, it's not a great movie, but like, I would never have seen that or know about that movie otherwise. And that was like one of my first introductions to Lily Taylor. LOL being an Uggo.
I know.
So ridiculous. Anyway. So, yeah, but I remember that I only saw the end of it. So I didn't know, I only saw past the point that Dell's hair was cut. So I had no idea of anything that went on. So I remember, I was like, oh my God, I remember this so well. I remember it, I felt like, I was like, this is the naughtiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because she ties him to the bed.
Oh, right.
And like, I didn't know, because of how it's coded, I didn't know the gender. Like I didn't know. I thought he was supposed to be a boy. In the, I thought Jay Davidson was supposed to be a boy because that's how he was dressed in the movie. And so he's got like really like long nails and he like puts the tape in the thing and like hits play. And I was like, this is so like, queer, I was like, oh my God. And then he's like, for whatever reason, this has got to be a root for me. Stephen Ray is tied to the bed and Dell like is like, tell me you want me and like tell me that you, and he's like, okay, he's like, of course I like you, Dell. And I was like, this is so fucking, I was like, I don't know. I was like 11 or 12 and I was like, this is so hot. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? I thought it was like the hottest fucking thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like a girly boy being like, tell me you like me. Tell me you like me. I was like, tell me you'd do anything for me. And I was like,
I mean, that you'll always be true.
And I was like, oh, right. Yeah, this was like, and also like,
why is this cricket bowler tying up this guy? This late night talk show host.
I didn't know. This was also a thing. This was also a thing that really confused me.
This 80s stand-up comedian.
I remember when he looks out the window and she's running away, like in the like courtyard or whatever, and like she looks back and she's like running away in the cricket outfit out the window. I remember that. Like that is burned into my brain memory. I remember that. And so when I watched it when I watched like the whole thing the first time, and you see Jody, who's played by Forrest Whitaker, and he's wearing that outfit, I was like, that's not what I remember.
Oh.
I was like, what?
Because that happens earlier in the film than that scene, yeah.
And he just repeatedly sees, and I was like, what? That's not what they look. What? I was like,
yeah.
I don't remember him looking like that. Because he didn't.
It's still the later years.
I was like, what? I don't know. I don't remember this at all, but the trivia said that there's several lines of dialogue. Again, I don't recall this, that imply that Dill is supposed to be like significantly older than Stephen Ray's character. Like her character is supposed to be older than his character. And I'm like, even if you said that, wow. No one's going to pick up on that because she's like 20 and he's like not. He is not 20. He is,
but it's Stephen Ray, so he's probably like 25 in this.
Gosh,
even though he looks like I do now.
He's so attractive in this movie though, because he's cute. Such a simpy little cuck.
Yeah.
And he does, what I like is when like he like figures out, like, I mean, he's shitty about it, but he's also not. Like, right. He's just like still following her around and like acting the same simpy way. And he's just like, I can't believe, this thing. And she's like, yeah, okay. I thought you knew because I'm at a homosexual bar, you idiot. And he was just like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to follow you home. Can we see each other tomorrow?
Because he's still driven by his guilt, basically.
And it ends with like, also like at the end when Miranda Richardson is there and she's being such a bitch. She's such a bitch. But she's like, what is it? Like she says like all kinds of like really fucked up shit. Yeah, she's like, what is that
I
thing?
remember.
Yeah, she says some shit. Yeah. She's like, get it away from me. And she's
what?
Yeah,
really?
yeah. She's like being a bitch.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. And
is that right before she gets shot?
Yeah,
okay.
as like, and then Dill like shoots her. But she's like shooting her and it's like hits her like in the fucking like leg and the side and the hand and then the neck, so many places. And like, again, that's one of those things where it was like so violent to me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, because she just kept shooting.
No, yeah.
And like, I was like, oh my God, and
that's another thing about his films, especially these earlier ones.
Yeah. Right.
And I talked about it in The Butcher Boy because I remembered, when I'd seen it at the time, I would have been put off by the tone of the violence.
Right.
But it's very impactful in his movies because...
Right. It can be like gory sort of, but it's not, you're not supposed to think light of it at the
Right,
same time.
exactly. It's
Like you're
treated
supposed
with
to be
gravity.
grossed out by
Yeah.
it. You're supposed to be uncomfortable by it. And that's also something I appreciate about his work. What was I gonna say?
Jody's death,
Yeah.
for instance, is
Yeah. Jesus. Oh my God. I did not remember that whatsoever. I barely remembered the beginning part, but that part I was like, what? I don't remember this. What is this? Fucking resurrection?
yeah, right.
That's all I could think
I know.
of. They hit him with
The
a car.
slow-mo.
They hit him with a car. And then and then they hit him with another car and drag him under the tires.
My favorite part is that nobody cares. They just go ahead and do their mission anyway. Which is to blow the fuck out of that greenhouse.
Also, I like that obviously they're going there because they know that that's where they took him.
Yeah.
And they're just like,
Whatever.
They don't give a shit. They're like, oh, he's dead. Whatever. We don't care.
Also, a great burn on the military that they only killed 2 people out of 5. Well, I guess 3. 1 unintentionally, assuming that.
A car unintentional.
Exactly right. I will say the only thing I really remember is that the penis is pointed to the side in a way that I remember.
I remember it being so much smaller than it actually is.
Yeah, same.
I was like,
that too.
that is soft.
But it's not shrimpy.
It's not, no, and like it's soft, but it ain't gone. Like
Yeah.
it's not, it hasn't left the building. I was just
You
like,
think it's a prosthetic?
no.
You think there's a double?
No, because it goes down. It's just like, it's a shot.
Okay.
I remember the first time I watched it and being like, really? You had no idea?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, is this so surprising? Okay, sure. Like,
She gets the best dialogue. She has the best lines.
yeah.
Well, the scene after the reveal or whatever, when she comes to his work site.
Oh my God.
All that shit is amazing. And the guy, whoever, Mr. Devereaux or whatever, who
Yeah.
owns the building or whatever, or he's the developer or whatever he is. And I said he's Henry Thomas's character in...
In Bly.
yeah.
I like when he's like, have you ever picked up your teeth with broken fingers? Oh, so good. And then as she's leaving, she goes, he didn't answer you. It's so good.
Do it on your own time, Pat.
What?
Whatever it is she does for you.
If I was her, I'd consider that an insult.
Look, you consider it how you like. Just get the bloody tart out of here.
Did you ever pick your teeth up with broken fingers?
What's that supposed to mean?
Simple question. Come on, dear.
He didn't answer, honey.
But like, that's the thing where I'm like, you know, I'm not saying that this is perfect. I'm not saying this is flawless. I'm not saying, but like
No.
Neil Jordan he wrote a fucking character. He didn't write a fucking
Correct.
like punchline. Yes, he wrote a scene where a girl has a dick, but like, what the fuck ever. Like,
Yeah.
he also did not immediately, like, you know, the only thing I think that is kind of somewhat weird about it is how Stephen Ray pukes or whatever.
Yeah.
But also I think, I don't know, I was watching it last night and I'm like, there's like aspects of it, I think, where we're like, obviously a man and a trans woman are not the same thing. And like, I don't even think that like, I mean, like you obviously could, but like, you're not going to approach sex the same way with a man as you would a trans woman. You know, there's not going to be just like an assumption of,
Hey, man, a hole's a hole.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm saying like from whatever, any gender.
That's my sincere opinion, and I'm standing by it.
I just mean what I'm saying is like, you're not going to do the same thing. You're not going to like walk into a situation assuming that the exact same things are going to happen because you're just not. Like, it's,
Well, if you're any person of...
If you're a good person, you're going to walk into every sexual situation and be like, what's going to happen next? Because I can't make assumptions here, but whatever.
Yeah. But what you're saying though is all I'm trying to point out is what you're saying is the difference between what people call is the distinction people make between heteronormative sex and queer sex.
Right. Yes, correct. But I think what I'm saying is like there's not going to be like, you can be a straight guy, you can be straight and sleep with trans women. But if you're straight, you're not going to sleep with another man, so that's like a thing where like it's approached differently because obviously it would be because you might like, it's a whole different thing because one's a woman, one's a man. And just because the woman has a penis doesn't mean that she's a man. So you're not going to have sex with her like you would with a man. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what kind of thing you're doing. And I'm not even saying literally, like it doesn't matter what sex act you're doing. It's not going to be like having sex with a man because you're not. So, period. With that being said, in like Stephen Ray's character encounters a penis twice in this movie. When you see and when you don't. And it's, when Jodie's forcing him, not forcing like in a, but forcing in the sense of like putting him in a situation where he has no choice but to confront his own feelings about things. Mm-hmm. And Jodie is a prisoner. So the story is basically, if you've never seen it, Jodie is the British Army, I think, British Army. And the IRA kidnaps him. And they're like, if
to try to force a prisoner exchange.
Right. To get a prisoner exchange. Jodie's like, this is never going to happen. Y'all are going to end up killing me. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Ray's character kind of befriends him. They sort of just like started back and forth. And they start essentially becoming friends. And then like Jodie's character, played by Forrest Whitaker, tells Stephen Ray about his girlfriend back home.
Special friend.
And
he never says girlfriend.
He doesn't? I thought he says wife at some point or something.
She's my type.
She'd be anybody's type.
Don't you think of it, fucker?
Why not?
She's mine. Anyway, she wouldn't suit you.
No?
Absolutely not.
She your wife?
I guess you could say that.
You make a nice couple.
So he tells Stephen Ray about Dill, and he shows him a picture of her, and Stephen Ray's like, he's like, she's my type, and Stephen Ray's like, she's everyone's type. Ooh la la. It's like, what is it about her? So, like, and then Jodie's character, like, he knows he's going to die, and he's like, you have to go find Dill, and you have to just tell her that I was thinking about her. Like, that's what you have to do. Like, if I'm going to die, you have to do this for me. Mm-hmm. Which is what makes Stephen Ray sort of encounter her in the first place. Mm-hmm. But while they're developing this friendship, Jodie, like, he's like, he has to pee. And so Stephen Ray takes him outside to pee. And he's like, he's handcuffed, or he's like, his hands are tied behind his back. And he's like, I have to pee. And he's like, then pee. And he's like, he's like, you have to take my dick out. Or he's like, you have to untie me. And he's like, I'm not going to untie you. And he's like, then you have to take my dick out. And he's like, I'm not going to touch your dick. And he's like, bro.
Right.
Literally, what are we doing out here? Like, he's like, do you want me to piss myself?
Right.
And he's like, oh. So Stephen Ray takes his dick out and he pees. And then he's like, okay. And he's like, are you done? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, let's go. And he's like, bro, you have to put my dick back in my pants. And he's like, he's like, I can't do it. He's like, oh my God, like what the fuck? And so he's like confronting him with like this thing where you're looking at this and it's so interesting to see how like this person is literally helpless. There is nothing that they can do. There is no sexuality. There's no sexual act in this putting your hand on another man's penis. And he's still there's still this level of like toxic masculinity that's like making him feel like if he touches a wiener, he's fucking gay, you know, but he does it anyway. Like he takes care of it.
Right.
It's amazing how these small details take on such importance, isn't it? Now put it back in. Give us a break. I can't do it. It's only a piece of meat. For fuck's sake, it's got no major diseases. Thank you.
But he doesn't then lash out at Jody or do anything. And he when it's his turn to kill Jody, or when he can't really do it.
Right.
And then Jody ends up accidentally dying. Like he never kills Jody, you know, Jody just happens to die. And so it's this thing of like, he's being confronted with his own ideas of masculinity and what being a man is and what love is and what caring about someone is. And the two people in his life, essentially, like, because there's Miranda Richardson plays Jude. And she's the person he's essentially sleeping with when the movie starts. And then when this whole thing happens, like when Jody gets killed, he gets killed by the English army that come in, just blow all the shit to hell. And so Jude and this other guy,
Peter.
Peter. I was going to say Trippin. I don't know. Tippy. They escape and everyone else dies. So Stephen Ray doesn't know that. He just runs away because why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
And he starts a new life as a new person.
Goes to England.
Yep. Like completely
London.
starts over, and he ends up finding Dill and then kind of courting her a little bit. I don't think at first he intends to.
Right.
You know, he just wants to see her. He gets a haircut by her, and then he sort of is taken by her, and then he sees, like, he wants to rescue her and, like, be her hero or whatever, and he likes her. And I think it's really interesting that, like, I feel like maybe it's not supposed to be like a side by side of like his like actually literally interacting with a penis 2 times in the movie, but I think it's supposed to be sort of like how like that doesn't mean anything, like that sort of like.
Well, and that the earlier scene, the pee scene, pissing scene. He's like, it's just a piece of meat.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember exactly, but he's like, you got to hold my hand so I can lean forward and not piss on myself.
Yeah.
And he's like, isn't it funny how the littlest thing?
Yeah.
I forget what he says. But
yeah, he's like the littlest things make, or I
feel like that's maybe a
right, but I hate comparing those 2 scenes, and that's why I wanted to make the distinction between like like interacting with a man's penis and interacting with a woman, not the same thing. And I don't consider them the same thing, and I wouldn't presume that they're the same thing. But that I think that's what feels like the point of that is.
Yeah, 100%.
Is like one of these things is something that he doesn't care about, isn't interested in, and the other one is presented to him as it's everything you want with this thing that you have a presumption about attached to it.
Yeah.
And so I feel
like there's I don't want to, if you have a point about this.
I was just saying, I feel like there is a point to doing those 2 scenes.
Yes.
And there is a sense of like, what are you afraid of?
Right.
That's asked. Like, what is it? Are you afraid that you might like this? Why?
Right.
You know, and that question is being asked of this character, but also it's not a joke. It's not funny. It's not laughable.
Jody gives him some shit afterwards.
Oh yeah. Like that part's funny, but I mean, like the
the
character sort of like the characterization of it is not whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
I just noticed that there's also a parallel. I assume it's intentional of when early on when Jude is honeypotting Jody.
Yeah.
And it's right before they jump him.
Yeah.
And Jody has his hand on her thigh and is moving up her skirt, and she stops him. There's a parallel with Dill and Fergus.
Yeah.
The first time they make out, or I don't know if it's the first time they make out, but first time they go back to her place. And
Yeah. Yeah,
she stops him and then blows him.
Yeah.
But
much less intimate. Yeah, also
thing is, I didn't even fancy her.
Also it's interesting that Jody's holding Jude's hand when he's taking a piss. He makes her hold his hand while he pees.
Oh, that's right.
Which I love. I've experienced that.
That's not often does the character get to pee on camera, much less twice.
But also, yeah, one time I hooked up with a lesbian named Mary, bleep that out. And
What was the last name?
I have no idea. I don't know. I never learned.
What'd you say?
I said I said bleep that out.
Last name, bleep that out.
Last name, bleep. So, what was the last name again? I thought you were doing a joke. So,
I was, but I didn't really understand what you said, and then I was trying to get anyway. Whatever.
So anyway, I was between relationships at the time, and I probably talked about this because it was very impactful. Anyway,
how you didn't shit for 5 days and still managed to do a hookup? That is the most Herculean.
I know. Yeah, she was
thing.
like, she was fingers deep in me, and I was like, if I shit this bed, I'm killing myself. None of the fingers were in my butt, so I was safe. But
fingers deep is very confusing term.
Thank you.
You didn't say wrist deep or knuckle deep.
I'm saying that she had fingers. She was penetrating me digitally. I said fingers deep. That means there was more than one finger in there.
Like a finger of gin or whatever, of booze.
That's a knuckle of gin.
You're a knuckle of gin.
Anyway, we held hands. We met up at a bar, like me and my friend that I was going to visit, and some friend and her friend and friends. We all met up at a bar, and from the moment I got there, she held my hand the entire fucking night.
Aww.
And we even went to the bathroom together, holding hands, and then we went into two separate stalls. And when we came out, we washed our hands and we held hands and went back again. Isn't that so sweet? So yeah, that scene when he's like holding her hand, I'm like, aw. That's how you should have known that there was any amount of queerness within any character in that.
Yeah, right.
Because they were holding hands with me. Because it's not a heteronormative thing.
Speaking of hookups, you wanted me to tell a story about
I would love
hookup
that.
I had, and I was not between relationships. I was more like Jody in that I shouldn't have been. And this isn't a fun memory for me, not because of the context, not because of the events, but I was like already had kind of cheated on my partner, and it was a dark time in the alliance. Anyway.
What year? What was it? Like 90s?
Fuck, I was trying to think. No, it wasn't that early, but it would have been like 96 or something. I would have been like 21 or something. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I got picked
90s?
up off the street by a person who I perceived as female, and then they turned out to have a penis, and I didn't vomit,
Yeah, you didn't.
which
vomit.
is the part you wanted me to.
Yeah, you didn't. You received it, or I received. I don't know how you. I don't know what happened, but you didn't react poorly.
No, yeah. In the moment, I remember being like, "Oh, okay, I guess that's fine."
Yeah, right.
Mostly, I was just like, I don't know how to. What do I do now? Having not
Right.
had any experience with a penis other than my own sexually.
Yeah.
It was okay. I don't think anybody got off.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not always
And
not
we
always
never-
the point of a hookup. Yeah, you didn't exchange numbers or anything.
No, we did.
Oh wow!
But the next time they called, I was like, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought it
I
was-
remember saying, I was just remembering this morning. I was like, yeah, I don't think we have that much in common.
I'm married. Sorry. Yeah. No, I love that story a lot because I feel like.
And then,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Of course, the timeline is foggy, but I remember not too long after that, I got a little bump on my penis, and I was very terrified that it was after I'd moved. By that point, I was in Pasadena when the hookup happened in Riverside. But yeah, and then I went to the doctor, and it turned out just like a zit on the head of my penis.
Yeah. It's a stress.
That's
pimple.
wild.
You have
I got shingles on my glands.
Pacney, penis acne.
Pacney, nice.
Or like.
And I remember I went to the
stop
free
sweating
clinic,
on
and
your
they were
dick so
like,
much.
"You're lucky. Normally, this test would involve shoving a Q-tip way up your urethra."
Why doesn't it?
I don't know why I got lucky that day, but anyway,
Yeah.
there's a fun little story.
Yeah, hookups are fun until you're like hookups are always like really fun, and then you're like, I gotta go to the doctor, don't I? Like, you have to be like, fuck, I gotta get tested. Shit. You're always like, yeah, ooh la la, let's just hook up with a stranger, and then you do, and the next day you're like, shit.
Or if you're Amanda Rollins, you get pregnant every
Oh,
time.
the 4th of July every year.
What a patriot!
Would you recommend?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it, I mean, if you somehow,
If you somehow, if it's been.
well, I mean, it's easy at this point. It's old enough that
Yeah,
it's not impossible to imagine someone had
for sure. Yeah.
A, never heard of it, B, heard of it but didn't know the controversy around it or whatever.
Or assume the controversy was.
I
Different.
think I actually like Mona Lisa better as a film.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're tied. I think what I like is they're really similar stories, but told with different intentions.
Yeah.
And I like the ending of this one a little better.
Also to point out that it opens with When a Man Loves a Woman and ends with Stand By Your Man.
Which I think that's indicative of how it starts now, because it says when a man loves a woman, and then the beginning is about Jody talking about how much he loves Dill, and then it ends with Dill visiting Fergus in prison, and it's like Stand By Your Man. So I think it's like that sort of contrast of.
I always feel weird about, part of it is my own ignorance
Love it.
about the Troubles.
Yeah.
But any depiction in films, I'm always like, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about this. And it always feels very superficial. And
yeah.
The Long Good Friday is the only time I didn't feel that way, because the IRA is invisible for the most part,
Yeah.
except for Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Hi. And the guys they shoot at the Derby or whatever. But I like that because the motive is unclear, other than just like causing damage and chaos.
Yeah.
and he's like the fact that he's a target and not
Yeah.
like things representing the crown or
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
British
yeah.
occupation or British imperialism.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I was right. Interestingly enough, the film was supposed to be titled The Soldier's Wife, and Stanley Kubrick told Neil Jordan not to do that because titles that are either have like army sort of title, like war
Yeah.
titles or religious titles, people make assumptions about them and they end up kind of bombing. And
Interesting.
I guess so. Let me see. Neil
Kubrick said
Jordan.
that.
That's what it says. Hold on. Let me make sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Neil Jordan originally intended to call the movie The Soldier's Wife. His friend Stanley Kubrick recommended a title change because he believed that films with religious or military titles usually deterred audiences and were often financial failures, something Jordan had experienced with The Miracle and We're No Angels. Oh, when The Miracle and We're No Angels flopped at the box office, Jordan selected the new title from the 1960s British pop hit.
Okay. Oh, God. Which one is Kubrick's war movie?
Is it not?
Is he Full Metal Jacket or Platoon?
Yeah, I think he's Full Metal Jacket. I think.
Oh, Platoon is Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fuck.
I'm pretty sure Full Metal Jacket is. Let's see. Jay Davidson is.
Is he like my age?
Oh no, he's like
50?
8 years older than you. He was
8
born
years?
in 1968.
Oh shit.
So like yeah, like 8 years old. No, 7 years older than you.
Damn.
So he was like 23, 24, 25, something like that. Stephen Ray was born in 1946.
No, for real?
Yeah, I'm totally serious.
Wow.
We talked about this, I think, in another one of our things. We've also watched Interview with a Vampire. That's another Jordan jam
that's
that we
right.
watched. I always forget about that one. A Jordan jam.
J Jams.
I love that this is like literally like Jay Davidson just was found in a bar. Like he was just cast in this because they didn't have someone to cast is basically his character. Which is also something that's really interesting because Jay Davidson, that's how Jay Davidson dressed. Like Jay Davidson was very like queer and like like was always giving. I think at least
I love all the scenes in the bar to see the extras, the background.
love it.
Also, Carl is a great character,
Yeah.
and they do that it's a very
Jim fucking Broadbent? Like, holy shit.
Yeah,
I
who's
had
he?
no idea.
I mean, he's great,
He's
and he looks
been
familiar.
in everything. He's been in, he was in Harry Potter. He was in
Fucking A. I was gonna say he's no
Moulin Rouge.
Robbie Coltrane.
Yeah. But, like, Jay Davidson was very, like, it was very apparent that he was queer coded or like, I mean, he's gay, so but he was very androgynous and ambiguous and had the long hair and would do like fashion stuff and he was just like that was something that he was doing and honestly I
Is he a
didn't know.
club kid?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And like honestly, like if like I didn't know until like I was an adult that he wasn't a trans woman. I always assumed that he kind of was. He's not. But also like I like that. I love that he had such fluidity. Like that's so cool. And I think, can you say like, oh, you shouldn't? I mean, I'm not necessarily going to call him a cis man because I don't know how he identifies. I'm assuming, but I'm not going to, But yeah, you probably shouldn't cast cis people to play trans characters for sure, but this was 1992, and a lot of this was unknown to people at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in.
Well,
I mean,
and it's, to me, I'm not trans, so I'm not a trans woman specifically.
right.
So it's not for me to decide
For sure,
to
for
litigate
sure, for
this.
sure.
But to me, it feels more respectful to cast a queer man who did a respectful job.
Right.
It's clearly, like the character Dill is not.
A mockery in any way.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Tragic, maybe, like.
Not even though, because.
But better than casting a cis woman.
Correct. Or right, and then putting a fucking penis on her, which they love doing that in the early aughts. Yeah. And also but also I feel like, especially in the early 90s, it was more dangerous to exist as an out trans person.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it was safer for everyone to not necessarily out people like that. It could be that wasn't just something casting someone that was as a trans person who was trans might end up being
even
more
a lot of
dangerous.
gay folks didn't
Correct.
felt like
Exactly.
they couldn't be
That's
out.
what I mean. That's what I mean. So when people are like, we shouldn't have done this, I'm like, yeah, there's reasons why you shouldn't have done that, but I don't think being like, we should have cast real trans people to play. I'm like, okay, I don't know that would have been safer or a better option for trans people back in the day. Not saying that that was a good thing. I just mean
Right.
there was a reason. The reason that you didn't know of any is because they didn't feel comfortable and they didn't feel safe being out. So yeah, what have we always existed? Mm-hmm. Have we always been safe to exist? Mm-mm. It's not. So I don't know. I always feel weird whenever people are like, we should have done this with a real, trans person in 1991. Okay, would that have been safer for them?
For the outro music, I'm going to do the Cheers theme song, full song, and it's transphobic lyrics.
Anyway, I would recommend this movie. I would definitely caveat the shit out of it, but
yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I haven't formulated this very well, but this is the thing. I get it if you don't want to watch this movie as a trans person.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Probably triggering as fuck, or potentially.
Right, yeah.
So that's the thing, should it not exist? Should it have been handled differently? I don't know. I mean, especially, as you said, given the time.
Yeah. Right.
He did more for, pardon the pun, exposure of trans people than, given its controversy, which, who knows how much was intended. Neil Jordan doesn't strike me as someone who's intentionally sensational. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think he's always, like I said, he's always writing stuff with queer people in it. Mona Lisa was, the main character is a queer woman. Yeah.
And that's 10 years earlier.
Yeah, and it's
right?
No, I think it was I don't know, 4 or 5 years
earlier. You're right. I'm thinking of Good Friday.
Oh, yeah. So, again, I'm not saying, he doesn't write characters. He writes characters. He doesn't write a sensational, he doesn't write for sensationalism. He gives you characters, and their queerness is oftentimes tertiary to who they actually are as a character. I mean, the main issue with Dell is the secret that Fergus is keeping from her.
Right.
That's the main issue, is that
that's the bigger deal.
Basically had a hand in killing your partner.
Right.
And that's the secret. And it's that's more of a secret than her supposed secret or whatever.
Right.
Like they both have a secret, you know, and he sticks around, you know.
Fuck off back to Essex.
And, and yeah, I think like I'm not saying, you know, obviously Neil Jordan is a cis man, I'm assuming. So, you know, yeah, okay. It's not always the greatest thing to like write marginalized perspectives when you're not marginalized.
But he doesn't seem to be writing from an entirely outside
Well, I
perspective.
was going to say, that's what I was going to say, but he's not writing characters for sensationalism.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that he's not writing, like, I don't know that he like wrote any of these characters to be played by black actors or white actors.
Right.
He wrote these characters and likely like rewrote the character, like he wrote this movie and then probably rewrote the characters a little bit for whoever got cast. Unless, you know, he had an eye for
trigger
people.
warning there too, because it was not fun for me to see Forrest Whitaker with a sack over his head.
Yeah, that was hard. Yeah. But I do love the shot where it's just his mouth after Jude hits him in the mouth and his mouth is bleeding.
Yeah.
And he's talking about Dill and he's like talking about how he loves her or whatever. And it's just his mouth and blood. I fucking like.
Of course you do. You fucking pervert.
I know. But it's such a gorgeous shot and it's so like it's so impactful because you're seeing this like it's not gratuitously violent. Again, it's not gratuitously violent, but like he does this thing where he puts his tongue on the cut. You know, like he's talking and then he just stops and he kind of goes. And it's done in a way that seems almost like how you would not think about it and you just be like, oh, that hurts, you know? And so shit like that where it's like, again, like it's not.
Totally forgot that he did an accent. I mean,
Oh my God.
I
quote,
remember
unquote,
nothing about the movie, really.
Accent.
It was fine.
I'm very judgmental about people's accents. I think his is maybe on par with Stephen Ray's American accent.
In apples to oranges? Apples to apples?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. In anything that he does an American accent in.
Oh.
Remember the SVU?
No, I forgot.
He was in SVU and he was in solitary for a long time and then he...
On Comedy Bang Bang, they love, or Scott Aukerman in particular, loves shitting on Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange accent.
I haven't seen it.
Because he's supposed to be from New York.
Oh, God. I swear to God, I'm just letting folks know, stop. New York is probably the worst accent anyone could try to do. New York and a Southern accent. I don't like when people fake a Southern accent. The only time it works is
when every Southern accent is fake.
And the only time it ever works is when someone's from Australia and they're doing a fake Southern accent because they're transposable.
Cool.
They're so Yeah, but he's not from Australia.
He's not? I thought he was.
I don't think so. I think he's British, but I don't know if he's Australian. Maybe I'm wrong.
We've had this discussion before.
I don't think we have. Not about him. We've had this discussion, but whether people are from Australia or not. Anyway.
Who's Aussie?
No, because he's from...
I said, who's Aussie?
Oh, I don't know. Lots of Australian people. So...
Now, those are the nominees for Best Supporting Actor. Let me open up Gene's vote and see who you would vote for if you picked the Oscars. If you did, it would go to Jay Davidson in The Crying Game.
Absolutely. Okay, a tricky situation this year. Let me talk directly now to the audience watching the show. There's a secret in The Crying Game. You probably heard about it, and if you plan on seeing it and haven't yet, you might want to turn down the audio on your set.
Oh, you're not going to do that now, because nobody's going to turn down their audio.
You've been warned now, so no angry calls.
What was sent to the soldier's wife from Paris, city of light? In Paris he got her silken gown. 'Twas ended in town, oh, the was sent to the soldier's wife from the south, from Bucharest. From Bucharest, he sent her a shirt embroidered and pert, that Romanian shirt from the south, from Bucharest.
I mean, that you'll always be true.